Okay, well, writing this sermon today, no, let me say that again. Writing this sermon, I realized that it was going to be about 40 to 50 minutes long. So I cut it in half, and you'll get the first part today and the rest next week. How's that sound? Or I could give the whole thing today. Or not. Before I get started, I just want to point out that if you noticed the first word, by contrast, and that should tell you something, that this is an additional thought to what was preceding it. And what was preceding it is Paul talking about, I say Paul as the writer of Galatians, talking about the flesh and evil desires that come through the flesh. And it's hard when you translate something from one language to another, because what happens is you don't get the full meaning if you just translate the words. And the word is translated flesh into English because it can be used several different ways. But the way that he's using it here, he's talking about something that is of nature, our instincts, something that every animal has. And I wanted you to keep that in mind as we look at this passage. I love watching movies. I love watching movies and then trying to take parts of theology out of the movie and see people do things and they don't even realize they do things. For instance, I was watching a show yesterday. Y'all watch Dexter? I love Dexter. It's terrible. It's terrible. Don't watch it, by the way. It's about a serial killer who kills serial killers. So he's a good guy, right? Anyway, whatever. Anyway, Dexter is atheist, and his son had to have a appendectomy, and when he comes out, he was worried that it might have already ruptured, and he comes out, and the doctor says he's fine, and what do you say when? Thank God. Thank God. And then, of course, somebody that's trying to convert Dexter looks at him and goes, "Oh, thank God," and it's just a saying. But yet we do that in everything we do. We put our theology or our understanding of God into everything we do. And people that make movies and write books, you can catch and you can glean some of this out of that. And one of the movies that I love the book first, and that's the book Dune. And of course, the movies have just come out. You got Dune 1, Dune 2. Now there's going to be Dune 3. But there's a scene in Dune 1 where Paul Atreides, that's the hero of the show, is tested. And he's called before the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit religion. And she tells him to put his hand in this box. And he asks, "What's in the box?" And she says, "Pain." I love that. Put your hand in the box. Okay, what's in the box? Pain. I don't think so. But at that moment, she takes this needle and she puts it up against his neck. And she says, that is let me say it right, the Gom Jabbar. And it's a piece of poison. And if I prick your neck with it, all animals will die. And see, this is the test. She has that needle up against his hand, up against his neck, and he has to put his hand in this box, which is going to cause him pain. And he puts his hand in the box, and immediately his hand starts to feel like it's on fire. And he asks her, "What is this about?" And she says, "This is to test you to see if you're human." and not an animal. And after he passes the test, he doesn't take his hand out of the box, but he suffers the pain and it feels like his flesh is falling off of his hand. And she says, enough, take your hand out. And his hand, it was just a nerve induction thing to make him feel like his hand had melted away. And she said, if you would have pulled your hand out, we would have known that you could not overcome your animal instincts, because an animal would have chewed its arm off rather than to continue in that pain. And so he passes the test of being human. That's interesting. That's interesting. I think a lot of people today would not pass that test. I say people. Because a lot of people in the world today are not thinking like human beings, and that is to think. I mean, she already said that she wouldn't hurt him. But yet, they think with their animalistic instincts. And they act upon those instincts and not use their human reasoning. Plato, you all know Plato, the what do you call it? Philosopher. Okay. Not the planet, but that's Pluto. This is Plato.
I thought you said Play-Doh.
I was thinking the
The philosopher, okay? Plato, okay. So he had this thought that is just totally influenced all of religion after his time, his talking about what the world was about. And it's just completely engulfed the world. Even religions now do say things that kind of reflect what he had proposed. And that was that there are two realms. There is a heavenly realm or a spiritual realm, and there is a worldly realm or the physical realm. Now, in the heavenly realm, everything is perfect because that's where it originates, in this heavenly or spiritual realm. So everything in the heavenly realm is perfect. And now what we have down here on earth and in the physical realm is a copy of what's in the spiritual realm or in heaven. I'll say heavenly realm. And what we have here, it's broken up and it's kind of not perfect, but they're trying to be perfect, like the heavenly realm. And because of this, things that are created are not perfect, and some people even go as far as to say they're bad. And in the physical world, everything is not perfect. But in the spiritual world, it is perfect. And so you got this duality, the spirit and the physical. So there's this duality. And now, the duality is seen in so many different things in life today, right? You have good, evil. You have the light and the dark, as they like to use in religious speaking. But we have these opposites. And this is the Western world. Okay, because in the Eastern world, they think a little bit different. Okay, but in the Western world, we've grasped this idea of a duality, a physical and a spiritual, the good and the bad, the black and the white. There's no in between. And so for a long time, religions held on to this. You have to be one or the other. You can't be both. But yet, as we go through our years as human beings on earth, and as we go through the centuries of understanding and we grow, we realize that even the televisions we had, before there was color TVs, we had what? Black and white TVs. Were they black and white?
No, right.
They were gray, exactly. So there's a lot of gray areas in life. I don't like gray areas. I like color myself. And so there's not black and white to me. It's all the colors. And there's a diversity of colors. But you see, but that was the thought at the time when this was written in Galatians. This idea that it's one or the other. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing that the world, or the flesh, the physical world, is evil. And the spirit is, of course, good. This duality has infiltrated everything in the Western world, even the church. In fact, some took it to the extremes, right? The extremes, to say that, hey, the Old Testament looks like the God is evil because he wants to destroy everything. The flood prophesies about destroying all the people that don't follow him. That's the God of creation. See, God created the physical. And the God of the New Testament is spiritual. You see the difference there? So we have good and evil, even in our own Bible. Now, of course, this was squashed by the church and said, no, that's heresy. And that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is that God is the same God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. But there's this idea of this duality that is still there. Now, the first words, by contrast, Paul looks back and sees those, what the flesh is. And I want to point out to you that when you translate flesh for the word, by the way, is sarxis, right? The word is sarxis in Greek. And what it means is the flesh. But yet you can use it many different ways. Just the same way when we talk about the world, the cosmos, we translate the word one way, but it can mean different ways. And like I like to translate what a lot of them are saying is this world we live in that is hierarchies, this structures, this patriarchies, all the ways that people have taken the world and molded it to their benefit. And that's what they say. Don't become of the world. Don't be fighting for power and control. And the same is here in the word flesh. Now, the flesh means, one translation is sinful nature. I don't like that. I like selfish nature, or just the word nature. In other words, we were all came from animals. And so we have those instincts built into us. Those instincts for desire, those instincts for self-preservation, those instincts, fight or flight. But the idea is we're not living like that now because we are human beings. We are above the animals. We are to take care of the animals because we can reason. We can use our minds, our spirits, to do good. To do good. And we are not just nature. Our spirit, we can think, we can act through our spirit. So what about our spirit? This is us using our abilities to go beyond our animalistic, right? You ever see the old Chip and Dale and Donald Duck fighting Chip and Dale? What's the tree that Chip and Dale live in? What is it filled with? Acorns. Because they're gathering every acorn they can find and storing it. Self-preservation, right? But who's that going to preserve? Chip and Dale, right? But we are above that. In our spirit, in our way of thinking, wow, if you stored up a little bit, and you stored up a little bit, and you stored up a little bit, then we could all make sure that everyone is preserved. It's not just the self. We've gone beyond the animalistic instincts to a cooperation where we can talk with each other, where we can be one with each other and not just the self. And see, that's the difference between being an animal and being a human being. Now, I'm not trying to say that people that act selfishly are not human beings, even though that sounded what I said, right? But what I'm saying is human beings sometimes act like animals. They fall back on their own instincts, and they think not to care about the other people around them. Because just think about that. If you cared about the other people around you together, would anybody be in want? Would anybody, if we took care of each other? Let us exhibit the fruits of the Spirit. Did I say fruits? Does it say fruits? What's it say? Fruit. It's singular, right? It's kind of like grapes, right? But it's different. Each one is different. But the fruit of the Spirit is what drives our lives, because it's the Spirit. It's us using our brains, using our abilities to think and not just react, not just use our instincts, but to overcome our instincts to be one body. We are acting like humans and not acting like animals. So therefore, let us love, let us fill the earth with joy. Let us be bringers of peace. Let us have patience with one another. Show kindness. Be generous. Be not hoarders of what God has provided for all the world. Let us be faithful and not look out for our own interests, but look out for the interests of all people. Let us be faithful and look out for the interest of all people. Let us be gentle towards one another. I think that's an important one. When we disagree a lot of times, we don't disagree gently, do we? And in all things, let us have a balanced life. Not of opulence, not of trying to be the most extravagant so that people will look at us and think we are great because what we've hoarded and our excess, which is a form of greed. But live a life that is self-controlled, that is balanced. Let us live a life like Christ, a life filled with love for everyone. Amen? All right.